All right, what is up, everybody, and welcome to DFS No Punt right here on DSM Media, brought to you by Manscaped, the leader in men's grooming products, the GOAT in below-the-weight maintenance. Make sure you check them out at manscaped.com. Use promo code DFS at checkout, get you 20% off and free shipping. Guys, we're week 14 in the NFL. That means Saturday night football games. That means so much is going on in the NFL. We're here to break down the entire fantasy football DFS slate for Sunday. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Jason Sullivan. Follow him at jsully2121. And our guest this week, Mr. Detroit Dave, a.k.a. Drew, from the Approach Podcast. What's up, gentlemen? How you doing tonight?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm happy. Thanks for inviting me back. I had a real good time last time. Wild week in the NFL, not game wise necessarily, but all the other extra, the extra things going on. But it'll be good to talk some DFS with you guys. And again, I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, Jason. I mean, he just hit it nail on the head. This is going to be one of the hardest weeks to predict DFS wise, especially the main slate on Sunday, right?
Dude, first off, congrats on your new house. It's beautiful. That was a good birthday present from your wife.
Hit the lottery. Look at this piano she bought me behind me. That great fireplace. I mean, it's fantastic. I may change the house during the show,
I don't know if that really fits you.
No, but yeah, this is going to be a crazy week for sure. We were talking off the air before. Like, you're going to have to wait until right before, the lineup's locked to basically do your lineups. Who knows who's going to play with COVID? Who knows, what's going to happen with all these games? And we were talking earlier today. I was looking at the running back slate. It might be the worst running back slate I've ever seen in DFS. Like, it is just bad.
So, Drew, when you're looking at, I mean, we don't even have to talk about COVID itself per se, but when you're looking at all these names that are on COVID, how are you are you staying away from those games completely? Are you playing handcuffs to these guys? What are you looking at this week with so many guys, widespread across the NFL and so many teams with massive outbreaks going on right now?
So, I think of it like this, like yes and no. So like, yes, you certainly have to take into account, like look at the Cleveland Browns, for example. That's I live in Cleveland. They don't even have a Case Keenum at this point.
Right.
Mullins is going to start. So it's like, do I fade all Cleveland? No, because I still think Nick Chubb's valuable. I also think what the DFS thought process will be with most players is they're just going to fade teams completely that have issues. So I think you can find low-owned guys that are actually pretty valuable. It's hard because you made the statement, when we talk about the main slate, I'm even just afraid after lock something comes up, right? That's like how frequently it's been. And so do you play more 1 o'clock guys? Maybe. We add in the element where we have 2 games on Saturday, so the main slate's not as large as it once was. But yeah, I think you have to. I think there's still guys there's guys that I'm going to play no matter what. So if Nick Chubb, for example, that's a plug and play guy. But if there's guys that you're on the fence about and that they have serious issues with COVID and what's going on right now in the league, then that might be something, a reason you stay away from a guy. But good players play. If it's a top player like Nick Chubb, you're playing Nick Chubb.
So there's what Adam Schefter. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I almost think the same thing with the main slate too. It's like, you can try to get cute down below, but I feel like you almost need to have guys like Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, like the constants that are going to be studs. Start your lineup with them, maybe both of them even, and then build from there. I think a lot of ownership's going to kind of go in the same direction this week. So I think it's key to kind of differentiate yourself somehow, some way. So you got to figure out everybody's going to play Kupp, everybody's going to play Devontae Adams, but that might be a good starting point, and then get different somewhere else. Get, maybe expand with your stacks a little bit or play a quarterback naked, just something like that, just to differentiate. Because I think almost all the podcasts I've listened to today have ownership going kind of the same directions.
Right. I'm looking at what Adam Schefter, he released. There's 7 teams that are in excessive advanced.
Whatever the hell excessive is. This is not good. It's not good.
Excessive advanced protocol. So he lists the Browns, let me see if I can read my half-assed notes here. The Browns, the Bears, the Vikings, the Falcons, the Lions, the Rams, and the Washington football team in advanced protocols right now. So for the most part, there's 1 or 2 guys in some of those teams that I might still, as long as they seem healthy and seem like they're playing. But I'm staying away from those games as much as possible, in my opinion, just because that just tells you that there's a mass rash outbreak on those teams, and you kind of, for fantasy purposes, you kind of have to stay away from those teams, completely, in my opinion.
Or you play the other side of the coin, right? The team they're playing,
Well,
and you ride them heavy.
I mean, I guess you could ride the Eagles going against Washington, who has 18 of their core 53. There's 21 players total, but several of them are practice squatters. I think it's 18 guys out of their core starting 53 that are in COVID. So the Eagles, as bad of a fantasy team as they are outside of Jalen Hurts, maybe the Eagles are a team that you focus on. But those kind of situations, exactly, Drew, are what you're looking for. Those advantages.
Absolutely.
So real quick, I was talking with Jason before you got in, Drew, and before we went live. And first off, it's crazy that the NFL has now started Saturday games. It feels like it's way earlier than normal, week 14 for 2 Saturday games. Are you excited at all? If COVID wasn't involved, would you be excited to play a small little, amount of lineups on the Saturday night 2-game slate?
Oh yeah. So like one of my favorite things to do is play single game slates, right?
Okay.
I love doing it because if you watch enough of the team, you can kind of have an idea of what they do and who actually could be involved better than somebody that doesn't potentially. Like again, the game tonight's a fun one. I'm in for this game. But yeah, absolutely. The COVID thing stinks. The Saturday football, I was actually at the game. Calvin Johnson broke the single season receiving record against Atlanta on a Saturday night. I love Saturday night football. The thing I thought was weird was the game next weekend. Like they went out of their way to play a Christmas game, which maybe that's just like, hey, I mean, that's usually NBA day, right? Like that's usually the NBA day. But absolutely, the game with Cleveland and the Raiders is super interesting because at this point we don't even know. Like NFL comes out today with different protocols potentially. I don't know if there's going to be guys that are going to be able to be cleared by that point. But that game I might be staying away from. But yeah, absolutely, man. The Saturday night game is probably the game of the week, right? When you look at the Patriots in Indianapolis, so. I'm definitely excited about Saturday Night Football. And at this point, like it's actually smart on the NFL side, and they typically make smart decisions when it comes to money. You could argue everything else they do, they somewhat are terrible at. But like you're talking, there's no college football. If there is, the bowl games, they're terrible. So like, yeah, the NFL is always going to profit off the extra dollar and make it work. But I'm definitely excited about the Saturday night game. And living in Cleveland, yeah, absolutely. You got to get in all those games because it's just a cool way to spend your Saturday. And you can also hone in like for a whole slate. You can watch every single guy you're playing in each individual game. And that's just the rush and beauty of DFS. And that's what sums it up. Like it's hard when we have so many lineups where we don't know who the guys to even focus on when we're watching the game. When you have a 2-game slate, you're like, all right, I know who I'm rooting for, even if it's guys, 20 guys out with COVID. You're rolling with it, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I'll actually say that. You said you really like the single game slate, and that's something I've really struggled with in my entire DFS career. I've been playing on DraftKings for a very long time, but the 2 and 3 game slates, like at this point in the season or come playoff time, is something that I've always excelled at. For some reason, I've had way more success on those Saturday 2-game slates, or come playoff time, doing a 4-game slate over the whole weekend. I'm curious to see why you like those single game slates more, because I know Jason said it before that these single game slates are something that I have personally never been able to figure out how to master those games and those matchups.
They're electric to me. Like, so I think the first mistake that anybody makes just like, oh shit, I can fit a bunch of these like big name guys that I think are going to have good games. It's about having a defense that you throw in there that people aren't playing. Like for tonight, for example, like I'm playing Kansas City's defense in one of them. Like everybody thinks that this is a super high scoring game. To answer your question, you have to be different. And so like, it's playing guys like I think my tendency is when you see that you can fit all these guys that you think are going to have good games into the lineup. Well, Phil, you and Jason are thinking the same thing. You're like, shit, okay, you can fit all these guys in this lineup. So like you have to find different guys. And I think that's where it's exciting. I mean, already tonight, the guy that's winning the GPP in the single game slate started the fullback for Kansas City, who scored his second touchdown of the year. So like I'm not saying that like you need to just go batshit crazy off the wall with it, but like that's where like I feel like if you try to just find one or two players that you think are super high risk or super high risk but high reward, that's the way you kind of excel in single game. Because and I also think kickers and defenses, at least if you're playing, the DraftKings way, they're very underrated and people don't want to touch them when they have other options. So that's why I like it. But you definitely the optimal lineup's always going to have like an obscure player in it. You just have to try to figure out who that's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, there was a moment this year, early in the season, where I mean, up to this season, I'd still been playing multiple cash lineups or multiple DPP lineups every single Thursday night game, every single Monday night football game. And then I forget which week it was early in the season, but Derek Carr went down with an injury, and Marcus Mariota scored. And the winner of that DPP had Marcus Mariota as his, and his 1.5 time guy. And that just goes to show, if I'm not playing 20 lineups or maxing out a lineup, there's no point in playing those single game slates for me, because I'm never going to take Marcus Mariota as my 1.5.
No, the other thing I found interesting when I read stats about it, like it's almost only 30 to 35% where the winning lineup has a quarterback at captain. And I think like that was really shocking to me, because for a long time I just plugged in like the quarterback I thought was going to play well. The key is finding the captain that's not the quarterback. And even if it's one that you think's crazy to play when you start it, if he hits with the 1.5 times points, then all of a sudden you're working with something.
Yeah, I mean, I only have two free. I have 2 free rolls with DraftKings tonight, and that's it. And I put Justin Herbert in both of them, and he's 75% owned in both of them, 22% as the captain in that one. So it's a really tough thing to get off of. And since that Marcus Mariota big night, as a backup quarterback coming in, I haven't actually paid for a single entry into a single game slate, just because that just made me realize that it's just not fun.
It totally is. And it makes you want to stay up till midnight, even though you shouldn't, and you shouldn't. And you're like, damn it, I'm going to be miserable in the morning. But like, you're like, okay, well, like, I guess it's the third quarter already. I'll stay up. And then when you wake up the next morning, you're miserable. And it's just like times like no other. That's just what you do.
All right, Jason.
What I was kind of thinking, Drew, when you're talking about the single game slate, is when FanDuel is kind of like that too, where the pricing is really soft. And I don't know if you guys play FanDuel at all, but you can fit a lot of stars in your lineup on FanDuel. And it's like, yeah, you can do that, but I'll be honest, I'm still trying to figure it out. So I'll try to pack in 3-4 superstars, but I don't win. It's like you kind of have to figure out like, okay, everybody else is going to do this. Like, how do I zig when everybody else zags? It's like there's different. I like the strategy part of it though. It's fun.
Where I think multiple 3K people this year, like Matt Collins scoring a touchdown, which I'm going to continue to throw the Matt Collins name out for the rest of the season, just because I called it this year. I'll continue calling that out. Where I can call that 3K guy out in a full game slate, I can't pull that $800 the fullback tonight. I can't. I've never successfully pulled that out on a single game slate. So it's fun. It's exciting to figure.
I think it's definitely like harder. Like, and I think like when I've had success, I haven't had like success where I'm winning $3,000. Like if I'm in the green $40 at the end of the night, like that's super successful to me. And so I'll throw in 10 lineups for $30-$40. And like most of the time you don't hit one, but man, that rush when you got one that's up there and you know exactly what you need, there's nothing better. And that's why single game's fun to me. But you're right. It's definitely harder because you can narrow down a player pool that you feel comfortable with and the main slate when everybody's kind of dealing with the same 15, 16 guys when we're talking about a normal slate or a showdown slate rather.
I love the same game parlays, especially in football. I love them. And, I can't figure out the single game slates for DraftKings or for FanDuel or whatever fantasy lineup you're building on. But the same game parlays, like Monday night, I hit multiple same game parlays on Monday night, but yet it did not translate to cashing in one single lineup on Monday night. So it's kind of weird. If you could pull out the right gems for a same game parlay. Why can't you do it? I don't know. I just think the ownerships and everything else it plays such a factor. I just can't figure them out at all.
And it's also like the lineup you get in, right? Like that's the one thing that's important too, because like there's all these lineups out there. It's like you got to pick the one that gives you the best chance to win. Like the one sometimes where in sometimes you penny up and pay the $15 to get into a lineup with way less people. So we're talking about 130,000 people. Some jackass is playing the fullback from the Chiefs, and that guy's looking good right now.
All right. Well, like I said, Jason, let's get to the brass taxes this week. The main slate, which is where we all put the most money on the line. Obviously, like we had said at the opening of the show, a lot of COVID issues and all. Is there a game? What's your favorite game that you're looking at this week? Because when you look at the game total, there's no game total in the 50s or above.
Yeah, the slate this week doesn't look very pretty, but I do like Dallas. I feel like Dak especially is mispriced for sure. Him being only 6,500 seems like he's probably mispriced. I know he hasn't been super good the past few weeks, but 6,500, I feel like that's too cheap for a guy that's consistently getting in the 20s every week. I mean, last time they played the Giants, he put up 25.7. So we know that he can torch this team. Plus the running back situation in Dallas really has me, concerned. I wouldn't play either one of those guys. Obviously, Pollard's probably going to be out. Zeke's a little dinged up too. They don't want to use Zeke. I think he has like 13 opportunities in each of the last 2 weeks. So they clearly are trying to save him for the playoffs. So I think I'm going to rely on this passing game a lot in Dallas. I like Amari Cooper. I like Amari Cooper every week, though, because I feel like him and CeeDee Lamb, to me, are kind of like 1A, 1B. And he's always about $1,000 cheaper than CeeDee Lamb. So I'm going to play him. He had 3 for 60 last time they played the Giants, but the Giants are just such a bad team that I almost like stacking those two guys with the Cowboys defense, which I never do. But I feel like this defense, I mean, they scored 22 last week and 17 the week before that. I feel like this defense could kind of be the kind of defense that could win you a GBP. So I really like Dallas this week.
Drew, what are your thoughts on that? Well, I like what so the one thing I like about the defense too is it's either going to be Glennon, and they've even mentioned that Jake Fromm could get snaps in this game. Jake Fromm's not good. Glennon's not good, right? Like that's just the way it is. To your point, you say Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb's 1A, 1B, and I know CeeDee Lamb's had the better year this year, but Amari Cooper to me is the guy, and I've loved Amari Cooper since the Oakland days. With Tony Pollard's ankle issue and Zeke just, again, even in the second half last week, they just kind of sat him on the sideline for long periods of time. And he's also shown this year that he hasn't had the ability to kind of break off the long one, right? It's kind of been 3 to 5 at a time. But the wide receivers for Dallas, for sure. It's again, and you think for the Giants, I know the spread's at like 11, which is a lot of points for the spread, but I don't think Dallas has any issue at all moving the football in this game. So I'm with Jason.
Well, since you're with Jason on that one, do you have another game that would be like a secondary game that you're really looking at?
Yeah.
That game did not make my list here because of the division rival aspect of it. How I saw they handled the Giants handled the Eagles. There's a lot of reasons where that did not make my top 3 games that I was focused in on today on Sunday.
Yeah, that's fair. And so, like, for me, I look at Packers-Ravens, but I only look at Packers-Ravens from the perspective that Lamar Jackson plays. He was not at practice today. If Lamar Jackson doesn't play, the game I pivot off of that I'm most excited about, in DFS excited about, would be the Seahawks-Rams game. So this is a really big game for the Rams, for one. I know they just beat Arizona, but Arizona gets a bye this week, essentially. Playing the Lions with all their issues that they have with COVID and whatnot. So Arizona will win. And so that win against the Rams, they need to show up again this week. Now, when I say that, I also think that you can go the Seahawks route. Tyler Lockett not playing this week. He did come down on the COVID list today. So when I look at the Seahawks, I like playing Everett at tight end in this game. I do like playing Russell Wilson. I think that sometimes, with the Seahawks, and they've tried to be able to run the ball better. Rashad Penny had a nice week last week, but I think it's a little bit different against this front, and especially what we saw Aaron Donald did last week. But I think this is the week where you can get DK Metcalf at a somewhat discounted price because he's been absolutely awful the last two to three games. So I don't mind playing Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf. And listen, if you're willing to pay up for Cooper Kupp, I'm never going to not tell you to play Cooper Kupp. OBJ being out, but like I guess the sneaker play on that team would be Van Jefferson again, because we know he can hit the home run and he's going to be a lower owned guy. But I'd like a lot of offense in that game. And that would be like kind of when we look at the slate at Jason's point, it's just not good. It's bad. I mean, the Jaguars and the Texans play. What is that game?
Well, I'm all in on the Jaguars.
I'm sure.
Now that Urban Meyer's gone, man.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Our man Rob loves, Strauss from the Jaguars. This is the week that he breaks out. Now that Urban Meyer is not there.
Robinson's probably gonna have 200 yards this week. So
you brought up an interesting name that I love both of your opinions on. He had a huge game last week, Rashad Penny, with Seattle. But then, let me see if I can find the quote here. Pete Carroll, basically, I can't find the quote here in my notes. He basically was non-committal that Perry was the lead back going into this week. So does Pete Carroll's lack of commitment scare you with him, or is that just gamesmanship? With Pete Carroll, not wanting a team to prepare for Penny. So let's see. He had 16 carries, 137 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns, caught 1 pass in the back out of the backfield. I mean, 29.8 points, and he's only priced at 5,400. When we have a week, as Jason you said, when there's a slate as weak as there is this week in running back, I mean, should you take a chance? Can you take a chance on him? What's your thought process on that, Jason?
I feel like it's got to be Penny. I don't know. I know Pete Carroll's trying to downplay it all, but like that team has not ran the ball at all this year, and that's kind of been their downfall, I think, this season. So I think it's got to be Penny, and like you said, 5,400 in a week that you have to pay up a wide receiver pretty much. I like the play a lot. I don't see how you go away from it, to be honest.
Drew.
Yeah, so I mean, listen, I get that Penny had a flashy week last week. Rashad Penny has been injured and inconsistent ever since he's been in the league. I know he had a big week last week. Pete Carroll, to me, I think Russell Wilson's gone after this year, and I think Pete Carroll's gone as a coach after this year. Yeah, really? And so for me, knowing that this team is down Tyler Lockett, so I get they're going to want to run the football a little bit more. But I don't expect them to have nearly the success they did last week, which was kind of shocking. Again, if you want to take a flyer on him, certainly. But as far as this offense goes, down the stretch, Pete Carroll needs to be letting his best player kind of win or lose games for him. And that's Russell Wilson. And they just need to see where it goes. But they're just a bad football team. And I would be surprised if they had 2 back-to-back weeks running the football well, just because I just don't think they're very good. I think Russell Wilson's very good, but I don't think they are.
No, I agree. I also think that because of the week he had last week and that price only being 5,400 with all the COVID issues across the league at running back and injuries and all, I could see. I mean, I don't know what the ownership projections are projected at, but I could see him being a very highly owned guy where you might want to try to find another option to pivot off of there.
The price is sexy, though. I will admit that.
The price is fantastic. All right. So, unfortunately, Jason, I got to say the first game that I looked at this week, I know Drew, mentioned the game briefly. It is Arizona, against Detroit.
Texas and Jags.
I got to say Arizona versus Detroit Lions, intrigues me to start a lineup around Murray and Connor. James Conner has been, we'll just use the word excellent, the last,
no doubt,
half a dozen weeks. I mean, he's basically reinvigorated his career. I know DeAndre Hopkins is out for the rest of the year, regular season wise. There's some COVID issues there. But, I mean, we've talked about it on other shows in the past few weeks that the Rams needed weeks where they needed to prove themselves. Arizona needs to prove himself week. And what better week to prove themselves than going against the Detroit Lions? Where they could go out, Kyler Murray, James Conner, you can play Kirk, you can play whoever you want of the wide receivers, honestly, at that point. That's the kind of the game. It's one of those things. I think, Jason, you've said it before. Don't trick yourself out of playing the best player sometimes. And this week, the best player, Kyler Murray, the best quarterback, fantasy-wise, is going up against one of the worst defenses. So play them. And that's my thought process looking at the initial way to build a lineup. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, guys. Since you're both Detroit Lions guys.
No, I like that, to be honest with you. I think the only thing that gives me a little pause is I think Kyler is going to be super chalky this week. So I'm going to wait and see on the ownership numbers, but I think so. I kind of agree with pretty much everything you said. I mean, Connor's been really good. Chase Edmonds, I mean, if he comes back and plays, I don't mind him this week either, but he'll be fine. I mean, the Lions secondary, their defense in general, but especially their secondary is really bad. I mean, their front seven's not awful, but their secondary is bad. So I don't mind that. I mean, Kyler had a huge week last week. He didn't score he didn't throw for a touchdown or run for a touchdown. So his point total was a little misleading, but I think he threw for like 389 and ran for another 65 or something like that. So he's obviously a stud. I just want to monitor his ownership numbers. That's my biggest thing.
But in a week, Drew, with so many COVID issues, will you be as concerned with ownership percentages? Because especially at the quarterback, at certain positions, I kind of feel like a week like this. If Kyler Murray's 25% owned, I'm even that. I know it's an insane number, but even if he's that highly owned, I'm not concerned about it. I really am not, because there's so few options this week on the main slate.
No, and I do agree with that. So the James Conner to me is the super interesting player, because James Conner's gone from being in Pittsburgh to where he was never utilized out of the backfield as a pass catcher, where now it's like, the dude can catch. And he's been fantastic. The worry for me is, and I think that Detroit's defense gets somewhat crapped on a little bit more than they should, based off of the inefficiencies of the offense. But you lose Jerry Jacobs, who was kind of like the rising star in that secondary, with all the COVID issues. The one thing that I would worry about, and this might sound ridiculous, I do think James Conner has a big day. But do they get up too early, and where it's to the point where the Kyler Murray is just not going to be able to push the ball down the field? If I'm playing a receiver, and you can certainly play the game, they're going to win. But it's to me, it's whether you play AJ Green or you play Christian Kirk. And I think the pivot from Christian Kirk, who I actually think will be more highly owned than AJ Green, is to go with AJ Green. He's kind of had a little resurgence here lately. They know that they're going to have to deal without Nuke Hopkins until at least, if they advance to the second round of the playoffs. But I expect this week to be kind of more heavily on the run. And that might end up, if it is a high-owned Murray, it might end up, kind of screwing you as far as getting the numbers you need. But James Conner, plug and play for me. If he plays, I know he's been dinged up. He did get injured in the game against the Rams, but he's at this point a must play.
Yeah, Jason, I want to ask you about Detroit. DeAndre Swift obviously is dealing with the AC sprain, shoulder joint. You got Jamal Williams on COVID. You got TJ Hockenson out. Is there anybody on Detroit that we should even be considering playing fantasy wise this week? To run it back, because that's the thing. Like, when I look at that Arizona, there's nobody I'm confident running it back on Arizona's side or on Detroit's side.
You don't have to force it, I don't think. I think the one play is St. Brown, the receiver. He's had back-to-back weeks with, I think, at least 8 targets. He's 5,200, he's gone up like $2,000 in the past 2 weeks, but he seems to be the go-to guy for this team, which I know isn't saying a ton, but at 5,200, I think that's a guy that could, especially if he gets in the end zone once. I mean, that's a guy that you could play for sure. I don't try to force it, especially with teams like the Lions. Swift, I'd be surprised if Swift plays again this year. To be honest with you, I just don't see the point. Yeah, no.
Why don't have him listed as questionable every single week?
Shut him down for the year. What the hell are we doing here?
There's no reason having questionable.
Craig Reynolds, though.
There's no point.
I'd be interested in some Craig Reynolds potentially, because they got to get yards somewhere, and it's probably. But Amon-Ra St. Brown in the last 2 games has been fantastic.
Which there where somebody's got to get the yards somewhere, and somebody's got to touch somewhere. That brings up Washington. Going against the Eagles, terrible. Like, the Eagles' defense is not the greatest. They can't stop wide receivers. They can't stop running backs. Their linebackers are terrible. Their safeties are terrible. I don't want to get off of stacks or game stacks right away. But is Antonio Gibson somebody you guys stay away from, or do you guys play? Because he's basically the only healthy guy that Washington has. They literally have 17 of the regular guys on offense and defense out. And then you got guys like Tyler Heineke who banged up from injuries, and Terry McLaurin out with a concussion. Do you guys stay away from someone like Antonio Gibson? Because somebody's going to touch the ball 30 times. It's probably going to be him. Do you play him or not play him in that situation?
Go for it, Jason.
You go ahead.
Okay. I play Antonio Gibson, and this is the reason. Not only is the injuries a concern since there's 400 players out, but
now I thought it was 375.
Ron Rivera has actually learned in the last 3 weeks that Antonio Gibson is kind of what they need, and they need to continue to put the ball in his hands. And the beauty about Antonio Gibson is I think the upside is out of the backfield catching passes. We know he's a good receiver. They don't have a lot. I mean, not only the COVID, but like you look at Logan Thomas with the ACL now, like they're catching blows. And I think Ron Rivera, and people will argue, I think he's a good coach. I think that they've realized that what they need is to give Antonio Gibson the ball. And without that, they're going to really struggle. And it's put Heineke in a very tough position, losing Terry McLaurin, because you guys have seen, even as much as they've struggled offensively, Terry McLaurin was a guy that got the football and produced no matter what. And for him to go up and come down with that, awkwardly on his head last week, that's tough. But I think you definitely play Antonio Gibson, because I think that the Washington football team, I will not call them their other name, which I do all the time.
Join the club on that.
That's their guy. Like, they're going to give him the ball. So I'm comfortable playing him.
Jason?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Same thing. We talked last week how it was a slam dunk play, and he ended up I think he had like 5 points or 6 points, so he didn't have a good week at all. But like Drew said, I mean, they figured out something. They figured out, a lot of teams, it takes them some time to figure out, like, Jacksonville's another team like that too. Like, you should probably give your best guy the ball, and he's obviously their best player. Jacksonville's similar with Robinson, obviously, but yeah, I like Gibson a lot, especially with a weak running back slate. It's one guy that is going to be the workhorse for his team, so I like that.
All right, I want to give you guys 2 more games that I'm really looking at this week, and I want to get your opinions on it. Both of them actually have COVID issues built into their team, and I know we said at the beginning you're trying to stay away from these kind of teams and these games. But the first one that I'm looking at, and I know Jalen Waddle is out, I know Myles Gaskin is probably out as well, but I love Tua this week going up against the Jets. I saw firsthand what Gardner Minshew could do against the Jets a few weeks ago.
Legend.
Yeah, I mean, Tua, obviously they're fighting for a playoff spot as well. You could go with Tua, you could go with Gesicki, at tight end. You could bring my boy, who I called 2 touchdowns this year on, Matt Collins. Do you play, or do you like the option of playing the Miami Dolphins this week with the way they've been playing, going up against honestly, one of the 2 or 3 worst teams in the league this year, the Jets?
So I actually liked the Dolphins a lot more before all these issues came out with like Waddle not playing and everything.
Sure.
I thought Devontae Parker was the play when Waddle was in. I mean, $4,300 is a crazy price. Problem is now with Waddle out, I think Parker's ownership is going to be through the roof at $4,300. So I think honestly the pivot this week, it could be him, but I think Gesicki is the play this week for that team. I think Tua is going to be super highly owned, but if I'm going to play Tua, I'm probably going to play Gesicki in that game.
That's basically the first 2 names I wrote down from that game. It's a Tua Gesicki game where Gesicki's gonna. We've seen multiple times this year where Gesicki's had a really high target volume, but not a lot of catches. I think he had one game this year where he had like 7 or 8 targets and only 1 catch. So it's not defenses have found a way to shut Gesicki down this year when he's highly targeted, but it's still something that my eyes, after Arizona, my eyes went to Tua to Gesicki right away.
Yeah, the Jets are a dumpster fire.
That sums it up really well there, doesn't it?
Here's the deal. You can also, if you look at what Tua's done the last 3 games, he's been, his accuracy has been insane. He had 2 games with 90% passing accuracy. And I think a lot of that was because of Jalen Waddle, right? Tua's not a guy that's necessarily going to push the ball down the field, but they've understood if we get Jalen Waddle in space, we have an advantage. So I do certainly think that hurts them this week. But Tua's play, again, the way Tua's played, and Mike Gesicki, this is a perfect spot for him. I agree with both of you guys. Mike Gesicki has had an up and down year, but I think he should be, and I think he will become in the next couple of years, based off the way Tua's kind of progressed. He's going to become a top 5 to 7 tight end week in, week out. And so I think out of that offense, yes, Devontae Parker's an interesting play because he's kind of the wideout that actually has size that they can use. And that's why Jalen Waddle was so great with him, is because he can get things over the middle and kind of create some separation. I think, Devontae Parker's probably going to see more double teams this week and safety help over the top. But Gesicki in the middle of the field is probably a smart play. If I'm playing one of the two guys, it's going to be Tua and Gesicki, to your guys' point.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, look, so I just, as we're talking here, I just built, a mini stack with Tua, Gesicki, and I threw my man Matt Collins. Let me remind you, Matt Collins has only 13 catches this year and only 4 touchdowns. But from week 6 to week 11, he's got 4 games and 9.5 points or above in a 6-week span, when all the injuries were happening with the wide receivers. Now you have COVID in them. So you have somebody at 3,100. He gets 10 points and no one else owns him. He's in that 1-2% ownership range. I think he's paid off his value. But picking those 3 players, would you say a 60-33 left after picking your first 3 players? That's not a value play. That's like a massive value play. And that gives you so many opportunities across the rest of the board.
Without a doubt, man.
Yeah. No, you're the Hollins whisperer. So if you tell me to play him, I'll play him.
I called him 2 times this year on touchdowns, and I've
been on 2 or 3 shows with you, Phil. You are the master of just like playing super high guys, like super high salary guys, and then throwing in like Jack Doyle for the people. And I respect it. But that's
I played Tommy Trimble one week. And he
listen, man. Hey.
Who? I'll give you, not this Jason, the other Jason, my man Jason Voorhees. He gave me the information on who Tommy Trimble was. I didn't even know who Tommy Trimble was. I played him one week and he scored a touchdown that week. He was a tight end at
man.
It pays off major value right there. I'm all about value.
Hey, it's like golf when you played what was that guy's name? Austin Eckert or whatever his name was, and you're like, yeah, this guy, I've never even heard of him.
He was playing guys. He was playing guys. I wasn't even sure I had a tour card.
Fairway has coming back really soon. I got the shirt on right now, man.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, that's right. I'm all about shameless plug. All right, I got one more game, guys, that I'm looking at, and that's the 49ers. They're going up against the Falcons. Falcons are a terrible defense, especially against the pass. I'm looking at Jimmy G and Deebo Samuel to start a lineup with. You could come back. I know, the 49ers defense is decent. They've gotten better this year as the year's going on. You could come back with Gage or you can come back with Patterson. You can come back multiple ways. But Jimmy G and Deebo Samuel against that awful Falcons defense. What are you guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I think Jimmy G's been super underrated for the last 6 weeks. If you sit back and look at it, there's super value in Jimmy G. And to Atlanta's point, you can also, somebody else who's actually started to play better, who I know people had high hopes for, is Brandon Ayuk. He could be a potential pivot. I know George Kittle's been fantastic the last 2 games, 2 back-to-back 150 yards games from him. So you could definitely see that. But from the Atlanta side, okay, you have, Kyle Pitts is going to be played. Really the only guy to me that's playable from Atlanta's side is Russell Gage as far as upside wise. But I'm with you, man. You could definitely start it off there. Deebo Samuel, what they've done, and this is why Kyle Shanahan's such a good coach, is I'll also even say that what Arthur Smith's done in them finding a way to make Cordell Patterson a really good football player. He's been in the league a long time and nobody's been able to kind of make it work. I look at it if you guys played NCAA 14, there was quarterbacks, there was running backs, and there was athletes, right? Patterson's an athlete, and it just took this long for a team to figure out how to actually use him correctly. But yeah, there's with Atlanta, the fact that they've won, I believe, 6 games is shocking. but and I think San Francisco again is got some going. But I'm not touching anybody in San Francisco's backfield. Every week, Kyle Shanahan is just so Jekyll and Hyde with what he wants to do back there. I know Jeff Wilson's back, but like I don't want any part of that. But yeah, Debo, Jimmy, potentially Ayuk, and then I'm only playing Russell Gage on the other side.
Jason, thoughts on that game and that matchup?
So I thought about it too. I thought about that game. I agree with the Debo call for sure. Kittle is an interesting one to me too because Shanahan, like you said you made reference to the backfield. He's kind of like that all the way across the board with everyone except Debo, where it's like just when you think you figured out that okay, Kittle's awesome, Kittle's the best tight end in the game, he's gonna go nuts. He'll have a game where he runs like 2 routes or has 2 catches or whatever. It's like he just always Shanahan never sticks to what you think he's gonna stick to across the board. So Debo I like, but the rest of it I don't know. Maybe Kittle, but I'm not 100% sure. At 7,500 for Kittle now, you're talking about his price being way up there. So I'm not sure if I get to that.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I just went off all my games right there. So do you guys have any extra games that you guys are looking at right now? Drew?
I mean, it's tough. Like a lot of these games are so watered down with everything that we've seen. I do think there's some interest in, the Bengals and Broncos game, right? So this is a huge divisional game for Cincinnati, especially say Lamar Jackson's out and say Baker's out, Keenum's out, and we're starting Nick Mullins and all the other rash of injuries that the Cleveland Browns, or not injuries, COVID rather, that they've sustained this week. The Bengals have to have this one. The Broncos aren't good. I know they beat Detroit last week. But I think the guy that I would like in that game was actually be Joe Mixon. I do think that Denver does a good job against the pass to an extent. And I think that the further and further we go along in this year, Cincinnati, and I know Joe Mixon's had a fantastic year, but I think for them to have success, they have to start it on the ground. And I think that's something they do this week. I think that they're a bigger, stronger, better team up front. Even with Bradley Chubb back than Denver is. So if there was one guy I'd play there, it'd be Joe Mixon. On the other side of the ball, there's just not a lot of value anywhere you look, right? Like the week you play Cortland Sutton, he does nothing. The week you play Tim Patrick, he does nothing. Like Noah Fant, it's just so. And you could definitely win a GPP playing one of those people just because if they have that week, they're going to be so low owned. But there's just nobody you trust. Even if it's Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon's still getting carries, so you don't know where to go there. Denver's offense in general is it's a huge question mark to me.
Jason, do you have any other?
So I actually I don't mind Mixon either. I actually don't mind the passing game for Cincy either because I think they need to win. Like you said, they definitely need a win this week. Burrow's actually been sneaky good the past few games, which is, he got his finger dinged up a couple games ago, but I mean, he had 22 and 25 points the last 2 weeks, which were both against good teams. I think San Francisco and the Chargers, who they played the last 2 weeks. Interesting little stat that I found today. Cincinnati has the most passing yards in the league against man coverage. So Denver plays man-to-man all the time. So I could see either one of these receivers going off. Higgins has been a monster for the past 4 or 5 weeks. And then Chase last week showed the kind of guy that we know he is. I mean, he put up 2 touchdowns last week, 25 points. So I don't hate stacking Burrow with either one of those receivers.
All right, I got one more question. Jason, you can go first on this here. Obviously, we talked about it. We hit it on it as before we went on the air. Urban Meyer's gone from Jacksonville. You got 2 awful teams, Jacksonville versus Houston. Does Urban Meyer getting fired and a new head coach even on the interim stance there? Did you play Jacksonville at all? Do you play Chenault, our man Rob's favorite wide receiver? Do you play Juice Robinson? I mean, Houston's defense is awful. Jason?
Listen, mine and Drew's guy, Darrell Bevel, is the interim coach there. We know what he can do. Dude. I know. The worst part is he won't get the job.
It's a sarcastic question, but I mean, I've been waiting for Chenault to go off all year. I've been waiting for Juice Robinson all year. So
I think Robinson's the play. I mean, it just seems like everything's pointing to that, right? I think it's $5,400. That's super cheap. I mean, I don't know. His ownership might be off the charts this week, but I don't know. I don't have enough faith in Trevor Lawrence to play anybody else, and Poor Daryl Bevel. He's going to interview for the job, and he's going to be a finalist, and he's not going to get it. It's just going to be same thing as last year. But yeah, no, I don't play anybody except Robinson in that game. Although I shouldn't say that. On that team, on the other side, I don't mind Cooks. Brandon Cooks just gets it done. No matter who the quarterback is, they have such awful quarterback play, and the dude just puts up 15 points every week. So I like Cooks.
Drew?
Yeah, I mean, to his point, poor Daryl Bevel had to pick up Patricia's scraps, now has to pick up Urban Meyer's scraps. And I mean, the thing I like about Daryl Bevel, like he came out and they asked him, he's like, dude, James Robinson's our number one running back. We're going to play him like he's number one running back. I think you look at what Urban Meyer did. Like he brought in Carlos Hyde. Like, okay, an old worn running back that he had at Ohio State. He brings in Tim Tebow. Like it was a circus they were running. It's wild to me that the spread of the game went from Jacksonville -3.5, Jacksonville -5 after the head coach got fired. Like that doesn't happen. Like, and so I definitely, and I think it was the right thing because Trevor Lawrence was being ruined, right? He was being ruined in front of our eyes, and he needed to get away from that. Daryl Bevel is a great offensive mind. I expect them to play better. Laviska Shenault, I don't know if God could coach him up to having a good game at this point. It just seems like, and you try to get in on it, and it just doesn't work. So
I've been waiting for an opportunity to throw that one in there.
Oh man!
You know what? Too, we were talking before. It almost seemed like Urban Meyer. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, I don't
want to get fired,
it, but it seemed like he was trying to get fired. Honestly, it did. Yeah. It seemed like I'm going to do everything I can to make the worst impression possible. And kudos to the owner there for not waiting. I mean, he's obviously a train wreck. He did not want to be there. When the dude flies home to his own home instead of going back with his team after L, that'd be enough for me. See you later.
So look, I got to ask before we start building lineups because we got to get to the lineup builds here. I love to get two outside perspectives because obviously, he holds a special, space in all of our Eagles' hearts. A lot of talk is that Bevel isn't the coach of the future, and obviously in Philly, Doug Peterson going to Jacksonville to work with a young quarterback is what everybody's talking about right now. That's his second chance, his second lease on life as a head coach in the NFL. Do you guys like the option of taking Doug Peterson and going and working with Trevor Lawrence in that young offense?
Go for it.
I don't mind it. I actually didn't even consider it. I was thinking Eric Bieniemy was my thought. Yeah. Like an offensive mind that you can have Trevor Lawrence kind of like learn under. I think he would be the perfect coach for them. But yeah, I mean Peterson deserves another chance, right? In the NFL, I think we can all agree on that. I mean, the dude won a Super Bowl, so yeah, I don't hate that.
I don't like it. I mean, I don't love it. I should say I'm okay with it. Again, so like if we sit back and look at guys that potentially should have had jobs in this offseason, certainly Eric Bieniemy's at the top of that list. There's other guys there. I mean, Brady. Byron Leftwich is another option. Like, let's think about where he's played and what he's done. I think that's probably in my head the main option, being an OC. But they certainly need to bring somebody in. I mean, does Doug Peterson deserve another shot? Yeah, certainly. But the way things ended in Philly,
it's interesting to hear the outside perspective from you guys on Doug Peterson and what you guys think of that.
Well, the fact that he won a Super Bowl and then it literally got to the point where they wanted it. You Eagles fans are nasty. You guys don't play around, dude. You guys do not play around. Like, he won a Super Bowl. You wanted his ass out game 3 of the following season. So I don't know, man. I don't know. But he might not be the best.
Throwing snowballs, man. Ruined our reputation for the rest of the next 60 years. What the hell? All right. We got something special going on tonight. Jason's in control of running the lineup build tonight. I got a new computer.
I'm kind of nervous.
Off. Jason, this is all on you. I'm back. I had my 6-game winning streak snapped, but then I won again last week in the 3-way contest.
You lost. Okay.
2 weeks ago, I lost.
All
okay.
Right.
I had a 6-game winning streak, a 1-game losing streak, and I'm back on top. So,
and
Drew.
This week.
Yeah. So this week it's up to you to see whether you could. We know Jason can't stop me. You know, he just can't. So it's up to you to build a lineup that could beat my lineup. And I got 3 lineups written right in front of me here. I actually did.
Hey, can you guys see the screen?
Yeah, I can see you what you're doing.
Yeah, we can see you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I would just recommend you just hit the cursor in the player search and type the names in as people are building them.
Yeah. I got you. Okay. I'm ready.
All right.
I'm nervous, but I'm ready.
Yeah, you're nervous.
All right, boys.
Dude, you've literally had no pressure on you in almost 2 years of doing shows with me. I've literally let you do nothing. I'm putting this all in your hands.
Even if you screw this up terribly, I mean, nobody gives a shit. It'll be fine. We'll get it together.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm going to start out with Gardner Minshew.
Okay.
As my QB1.
Okay. I like
he's playing. Okay.
Minshew, even though he's definitely not 100% starting.
Well, right. And so that's the other thing. Clearly we can pivot if our guys either don't play or get COVID. But
right. Yeah.
I will take Gardner Minshew.
Okay.
I will take James Conner.
Okay.
That's the other thing. You go through these lineups, like you go through it. Everybody has red stuff next to their name. Like, is this guy got COVID? Is he questionable? Like, he's on the IR.
There's like 2 players that don't have questionable tags.
Right. I will take Antonio Gibson. I'll take Amari Cooper.
Oops.
Yep.
I will take Devontae Smith.
I love it.
Every time I come on here, I got to take some Eagles guys. It's just the right thing to do.
Yeah, right.
I don't like you, but I love the Smith pick right from the pick.
I will take Amon-Ra St. Brown. I will take Zach Ertz.
Had quite the career resurgence now going to Arizona.
Yeah, and he
that might be the play with Arizona this week too.
Yeah,
I was thinking about that.
I'll take
normally when a wide receiver or I don't want to say a wide receiver, obviously a tight end. When a weapon goes to a new team midseason, it takes a while to adjust. It hasn't taken Zach Ertz very long to adjust at all.
It's true. I'll also go back with Mark Andrews.
Double tight end. I like it.
Be here this week.
I mean, I think like even so say that Huntley plays. He loved him some Mark Andrews last week against Cleveland. And then I will finish with the Bengals defense.
So speaking of Andrews, so I heard in the 2 games that Huntley has played, he's targeted Andrews 19 times, and Andrews has 17 catches on those 19 targets. That's pretty enticing.
Yeah. I mean, you know how it is. Like when a quarterback comes in, they like go to the safety blanket, and I think that's typically the tight end. So that'll be my lineup.
I think it's a really strong lineup. Outside of your quarterback at Minshew, just because there's that question mark, whether Jalen Hurts is playing or Gardner Minshew, I actually think Minshew actually plays. A lot of the talk today was that he was, still limping around at practice, still took very few snaps at practice, and it came out that his ankle sprain was a high ankle sprain.
I saw that.
Yeah. It's a really, really, really good play there. That's the only question mark on your lineup. Otherwise, I think you got a fantastic lineup there, Drew.
Thanks, man. Minshew Mania. Let's get it going.
I'm trying to be nice. It's a holiday season.
I appreciate that. What are you going to say? That's a shit lineup. I hope you get goal in your stocking.
Well, I would say that.
Jason, good. That's fair.
Jason knows me well enough to know that that's what I would say. Right, Jason, build your lineup next.
I'm going to build this on the fly. I did no pre-lineup prep today, so I'm going to build this on the fly. I'm going to get a little wild, I think.
Okay.
I'm putting Cooper Kupp. And I'm also going to put Devontae Adams in to start.
Wow. Just blowing the money.
You're going
throwing
all
stacks.
your money at the 2 wide receivers right there.
Damn right.
This is my play too. Like you have to throw the defense in before you complete things because it throws the money off. Like,
absolutely agree with you on that.
For sure, you got to do that. I'm going to go with
play the Lions.
The fired up. I am not going to go to the Lions. I am going to go with the fired up Jacksonville Jaguars at defense.
Oh wow!
I'm going to stack that. I'm going to stack that with the best running back on the slate this week, James Robinson.
Wow.
Wait,
A
do we?
Jacksonville
That's
stack.
okay.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it
the
so much.
Daryl
Right there.
Bevel special.
That's right. Oh man, this is
Look
kind
at
of
all the
depressing.
red. Like this is what I was talking about. Look like everybody's red.
I know. It's so depressing. Honestly. It really is.
All right, I'm gonna go with my man. I'm gonna play Burrow. I'm gonna play a Burrow stack. That's what I'm gonna do.
Jay Uzma and Burrow.
And CJ
Yep.
Uzama
He's
was
the
I'm
one
writing
Burrow.
this down.
back.
It's so nice not having to control the DraftKings screen for a moment. You know, I'm so happy that someone else is doing something on this show for a second.
Right. I'm gonna go Phil's guy, Miles Sanders. This lineup is kind of bad. I just realized that.
This lineup, no offense, I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but this lineup, if I just had to pick between you and Drew, already this lineup is way worse than Drew's.
Yeah, I appreciate
All right, wait.
that.
I'm gonna take Miles Sanders out. I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna see how much money I have on the table.
Oh, okay.
I
Phil talks shit. He immediately pulled an eagle out.
Yep.
No. I might still put him in. I'm going.
Okay.
I want to put Gabe Davis in.
Okay.
Gabe Davis, who?
That's not a bad play, actually. Carolina's trash.
Dude, he's been money.
He actually
I had
has
another play.
He's actually more productive than
at
Cole
3,700.
Beasley.
Yeah, 3,700 is a really good price for him too. You're going to the way bottom on the price of the running back.
I'm just looking.
You're just looking on the fly here.
Anybody good out there?
I'm just looking on the fly. Sorry, everyone.
Way to be an embarrassing guest embarrassing co-host and not having any prep.
All right, I'm playing
I saw
Nico Collins too.
Laquan Treadwell.
Yeah.
Put him in.
I'm putting Nico
Who you
Collins
going?
in.
What the
Wow.
Nico. And I want to see how much.
Player.
I want to see how much that leaves me.
So is that the whatever they call it, the Michigan thing below your cup there? Is that Nico Collins play? Michigan kid.
It is.
Okay, it's kind of rubbing off on you.
I might tinker. I might tinker a little bit.
Well, tinker. What the hell? We supposed to stay up till midnight while you tinker with your lineups?
Seriously, dude, this is my last.
Okay. This is my lineup. Can you guys see my lineup? Okay, I'm going Burrow, Robinson, Barkley, Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, Gabe Davis, Uzoma. How do you say that name? I don't know.
Yeah.
Nico Collins and the Dolphins defense. Boom, championship.
All right. So again, I don't have control of the screen, so this is up to you, Jason, to make sure this works and fits. All right, we're gonna start with Tua. Okay,
Tua.
We're going with my. I wrote down 3 stacks. I can't go with my Arizona Cardinals stack because I have both Connors and Antonio Gibson in it. I can't copy Drew that much. So we're gonna go with Tua. All right, we're gonna go with Giuseppe. We're gonna go Giuseppe here. Okay, I know it's unpopular, but we're gonna go Cordell Patterson at running back. Okay, running back.
Hold on.
You got to get him the right. Dude, you're so slow at this.
Give him a break. It's his first time.
Yeah. You shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
So much more professional when Fairway to Heaven comes back in January.
Pick your stupid team.
All right. Well, you have those. Okay, you got those in there. Okay, we're gonna go A.J. Dillon at running back as well. Because Antonio Gibson's still question mark, but we're gonna go into A.J. Dillon here. All right, we're gonna go Devontae Smith. We are gonna copy Drew on one guy there. Devontae Smith is gonna have a lot of targets this week. We're gonna go to the flex. We're going to go with Pittsburgh's running back, Harris. We're going to go with Texans defense as well. I got to see where I'm left here. Zoom in on.
So you hate the new look Jacksonville Jaguars offense is what you're saying?
I did write down. So I did have one stack built with Chenault in it, just so you know. But yeah, no, I hate them. We'll go Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, Brandon Ayuk. I don't know why, but I like it.
What's that leave me with? I know what it leaves me with.
3,700.
Well, I mean, it leaves me enough with Matt Collins to put in there.
There he is.
So throw Matt Collins in there. My third time.
That's what you're doing?
Yeah, let's go Matt Collins again. It obviously leaves me enough for Matt Collins. There's no doubt about it. Matt Collins is 3,100. That's a lot left over.
Do you want to upgrade anywhere? for 600.
I might want to upgrade my defense actually. 'Cause that's 600 left or three-way contest. Bring up defenses here, so I could go up to. Oh, absolutely upgrading that defense. Man, didn't somebody already take the Bills? Man,
No, that's the play probably.
Go with the Rams defense there. Upgrade my defense to the Rams.
Wow.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Dude, my team is so much better than yours this week.
That's just because of it's a three-way. If it wasn't a three-way, I would have left my defense to Texas. I'll be honest.
All right.
Yeah, leave that out. Look at how great that lineup. Here, we'll even do this. We'll make it a bigger picture, just to show off how great that lineup is right there.
Wow. What a great
Done.
lineup.
Give me control.
Oh man.
Well done, Jason. Round of applause for you. You know, with the being able to set the lineups.
So much pressure.
Oh, there it is. All right. Well done. Well done.
All right, that's enough. All right. It's obviously been a fun episode here. Last night of vacation here in the mountains. So everybody, thank you for tuning in to DFS. No punt intended. Right here on DSM Media. Brought to you by Manscaped, the leader in men's grooming products. Manscaped.com. Use promo code DFS at checkout. Get your 20% off and free shipping. As always, we got to give a special shout out to Drew. Thank you for coming on, Drew. We greatly appreciate it. Make sure you follow him at Detroit Dave 7. The Approach Podcast. When will the Approach Podcast be coming back?
Tournament of Champions. So early January. I appreciate you guys having me on, by the way. I always have a lot of laughs and a good time with you guys.
No, we appreciate you coming on as always. Jason, you look good in your new studio there, buddy.
You know, I upgraded. I told you, the theme of the end of this year, upgrading in life.
That's right. Upgrading in life.
That's a good theme, dude. I like that.
Theme to end this year.
I'm just going to leave it right there. I'm not going to.
New Year's resolutions are always upgrading in life, right? Everybody have a great week. Be safe. Be well. We'll see you next week, as always, and I'll be back tomorrow morning breaking down the Thursday night football game. I'll be breaking down. I'm assuming a Sixers loss. I mean, they were getting crushed before we went on the air. I'm assuming they lost the game. We're breaking that down. We're trending in the AM at 8:30 a.m. And don't forget to follow the Bell and the Bursman podcast and group, John Barchard and Vince Quinn. We're going to be live with them on the remote location for Eagles all day on Sunday. So make sure you check out those guys as well. Gentlemen, thank you very much. End of another great episode. And I got music to play us off with.
Let's do it.
Hey, everybody, follow DSM Media, guys. Have a great night.